I'm honored to present to this House the fifth and final budget of this administration, as well as our medium-term projections for the next 3 years. Let me begin by tabling the following documents for your consideration: the Appropriation Bill for 2019, the explanatory memorandum to the bill, estimates of revenue and provincial expenditure, estimates of capital expenditure, the socio-economic review outlook, and a copy of my speech. Honourable members, throughout this term, Gauteng residents have advised us each year on where we should deploy our resources. True to the Gauteng spirit, this year, more than 150,000 residents participated in our online campaign, #GPBudget2019. We received more than 1,800 written submissions. We had guidance on where we should spend money, how we should save precious resources, and ways to grow the economy of our province. Top of the agenda is the call for provincial government to invest in education and to do more to equip young people for the workplace with the skills they need now and in the future. 7 out of 10 contributors mentioned the importance of supporting small enterprises and township entrepreneurs to create work opportunities. There was a loud call for government to invest more in renovating industrial parks and regulating illegal businesses. Many stressed the importance of using government's procurement muscle to provide market access for emerging enterprises in areas like infrastructure construction and maintenance. A strong call was made for government to make it easier for SMMEs to understand what support is available and how it can be accessed. Many asked that more be invested in employing doctors and nurses in hospitals and clinics so that the quality of service improves and health practitioners treat patients with care and dignity. Some of our residents asked that more be spent on improving road infrastructure and building our public transport system. Others complained about environmental conditions in the province and demanded more be done about illegal dumping and littering. There was widespread condemnation of wasteful expenditure and support for greater transparency and accountability in government contracts and tenders. Public servants who are self-serving, dishonest, corrupt, and incompetent came in for the harshest criticism. Honourable members, the 2019 Gauteng budget I table for your consideration today does its utmost to respond to this important council. It sets out how this provincial government funds our commitment to transforming and growing our province and our support for small enterprises and township businesses. It highlights our significant progress in improving education outcomes and supporting young people to get the skills they need now and in the future. It shows how, through investing in social and economic infrastructure, we're improving the conditions of life for all our residents. It speaks to our work in building social cohesion in our diverse province, so we secure a future for all our people. We explain here that in Gauteng, we have built our financial management capacity to root out waste and ensure hard-earned taxes are spent directly on providing quality infrastructure and services. This budget addresses the measures this administration takes to keep pace with service needs in a context of tight budgets at national level. We can proudly say, honourable members, that the 2019 budget I table today is indeed a Gauteng People's Budget. When Minister Tito Mboweni delivered his budget speech in the National Assembly on the 20th of February, he indicated that our economy is recovering slowly but steadily from the technical recession. Restrained growth means lower than expected revenue collection. Because government is committed to ensuring sustainable finances, we must all help contain the budget deficit and stabilize public debt. In the State of the Nation address, President Ramaphosa indicated that only faster and more inclusive growth will expand employment and raise the revenues needed to support social development. Gauteng Province is now a home to 1 in 4 South Africans. As the economic and industrial hub of our country, we have a special role to play in promoting faster and more inclusive growth. Today, nearly 5 years since the introduction of the 10-pillar program of transformation, modernization, and reindustrialization, over the past 5 years, Gauteng has attracted 199 billion in foreign direct investment and created 469,000 net jobs. In the course of the coming year, 40 billion will be invested by the private sector in new and expanded industrial developments across the province. Gauteng is now the best performing province with regard to grade 12 results, both in terms of the absolute number of students who passed matric and the numbers who qualify to go to university. Through SOPA 1 million, over 500,000 young people have benefited from bursaries, learnerships, internships, and entrepreneurial training. This enables our most productive citizens to more easily enter the economy and to use their skills and abilities to better our province and their own lives. One of the contributors to hashtag GP Budget 2019, Priscilla Motswani from Katlehong, had this to say: "When I finished my studies, I was miserable after spending a year looking for work. But now I have an internship linked through the YES program. So I think Gauteng must continue with initiatives such as SOPA 1 million. As far as I know, this is the only big provincial youth initiative that has been able to assist a lot of young people find job placement or use their energies to start businesses. So I say yes to SOPA 1 million. Nadia Nagia from Randfontein says, "My brother was placed through this project, and I have seen a lot of changes in his outlook on life. He is motivated and believes in achieving his dreams. Before he was stressed, without direction after finishing his studies at UJ, because he was struggling to find a job. Over the past 5 years, we have invested 53 billion in infrastructure, building schools, clinics, hospitals, libraries, roads, public transport, broadband, and industrial parks. This has massive social and economic benefits for the people and the economy of our province. The success of our Welfare to Work program has far exceeded our expectations, with 36,000 young mothers who used to be dependent on the Child Support Grant now self-employed through training and skills development. Over the past 5 years, Gauteng has spent 74 billion on procuring goods and services from businesses owned by historically disadvantaged individuals. This includes procuring 20 billion rands worth of goods and services from women-owned enterprises and 9 billion from youth-owned businesses. While the provincial government and our citizens do all in our power to fulfill our special responsibility to grow the provincial economy, we also face increasing demands on our provincial finances. Our provincial population has increased to 14.7 million. Our public health system serves 20 million healthcare users per annum, and our education system now has 2.3 million learners. A combination of improved own revenue collection, a more creative approach to off-budget financing, and tight financial management has enabled us to meet the ever-growing demand for public services. In 2014, we took a conscious decision to increase provincial revenue. Together with our sister departments, we set out to eliminate loopholes in collection mechanisms and promote operational efficiency. Every year during the 5-year term, we surpassed our annual revenue targets. And to date, we have collected over 20 billion in own revenue. This is the highest amount raised by any provincial government and goes a long way to explaining why we have managed to keep the province's finances afloat. These resources have been particularly important in keeping teachers, social workers, nurses, and doctors in our frontline institutions. Consequently, we have been able to protect citizens from cuts in health, education, and social services. 5 years ago, we also took a decision to build the capacity of our infrastructure finance agency to develop a project pipeline for alternative and blended financing solutions. As we speak, the West Rand Logistics Hub and Jewelry Manufacturing Precinct are in Phase 1 construction, and approval has been received to conclude the PPP agreement with developers of 2 buildings in the Tshwane Innovation Hub that will incubate innovation and smart industries. The GIFA project pipeline now has more than 20 projects, which include the Kopanong Precinct and the Gauteng Schools project. National Treasury has already indicated that it has begun drafting legislation to support the new infrastructure fund announced by President Ramaphosa last year. We are told this fund will offer a range of blended finance solutions for infrastructure projects ready for implementation. It is our belief that the GIFA project pipeline will place Gauteng in an advantageous position to approach the fund for support once work on the regulatory environment is completed. We spoke earlier of Gauteng's significant track record of infrastructure delivery over the past 5 years that has made a considerable contribution to our economic and job creation objectives. Provincial government's investment in infrastructure is estimated to have added 41 billion to the provincial economy over the last 4.5 years, created or sustained 265,000 jobs, and created 499,000 public works opportunities. Another contributor to our GP Budget 2019, Peter Kubuye from Mayfair, says, "This province has put a lot of effort in infrastructure development, building roads, clinics, and schools. I want to see this work continue in the future because infrastructure is important to economic growth and job creation. This achievement would not have been possible without significant management reform and initiative known as the Infrastructure Delivery Management System, or IDMS, that has allowed us to average a 97% spend on our infrastructure budget. Our unrelenting policy of only funding shovel-ready projects has paid off, particularly in the departments of transport and education. The Department of Transport has delivered 365.7 kilometers of road rehabilitations and 100 kilometers of which have been upgraded from single to dual carriageways in the last 5 years. The Department of Education has built 52 new schools in the last 5 years. Honourable members, our activist Treasury remains on track in its quest to restore public confidence in our public procurement system and promote open and clean government across the province. Our innovative open tender system has been rolled out in all departments and 6 entities. To date, over 80 projects with a collective value of 18 billion rand have been adjudicated in public. This process has enhanced transparency in government and created significant awareness about public procurement and accountability in decision-making. Treasury received a number of positive comments about the role of the open tender adjudication process is playing in promoting clean government. Mr. Lucas Mabena from Bronkhorstspruit told us, the open tender system is one of the best initiatives that has been introduced by government to stop corruption in tenders. This project must continue and must be introduced nationally. As a supplier within Gauteng, I attended a few public adjudications, and I saw for myself how bids were discussed and decisions on who won, etc., are taken. I'm happy to report to this House that the bill which will enshrine our open tender system in law is now before the Finance Committee. We hope, Madam Speaker, that this House will pass the bill into law before we rise in March. I'm sure you will all agree, honourable members, that we have significantly improved provincial financial management and compliance. This has resulted in 65% clean audits and 100% unqualified audits for all departments and entities for 3 years in a row. I have no doubt that the significant progress we have achieved in this term in establishing a culture of transparency, public accountability, and credible financial controls can, if sustained in the next term, ensure that provincial government achieves its target of 100% clean audits. We are also happy to report to this House that all Gauteng municipalities where audits are complete have received unqualified audits also for the 3rd year in a row. 1 municipal audit is outstanding, and Midvaal must be congratulated for sustaining its clean audit for 5 years in a row. Honourable members, in the State of the Province address, Premier Makura described Gauteng as the pioneer, laboratory, and leader in the revitalization and transformation of township enterprises into sustainable and job-creating businesses. Honourable members, I am sure our collective experience tells us that the township economy is indeed an idea whose time has arrived. Over the past 5 years, the Gauteng Provincial Government has procured goods and services to the value of 22 billion from township entrepreneurs. We have registered 32,000 township businesses, many from as far afield as Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Free State, Northwest, on the Gauteng SAP system, which is linked to National Treasury's Central Supplier Database. Of the Gauteng-based township enterprises, of which there are about 10 or 11,000, we have used 7,000 in the provincial supply chain. A further 2,500 Gauteng-based township enterprises have received training through our supplier development programs since 2014. Our efforts in this regard have not gone unnoticed by Gauteng residents. Matebe Matabula from Mamelodi says, I own Dika Karapa Construction, which was established in 2010. My company is involved in general maintenance work, and one day I received a call from an agent of the South African Supplier Diversity Agency. They invited me to join a supplier development program that they were involved with the Gauteng government. Since then, we have improved as a company in areas such as corporate governance and financial management. The focus of the Gauteng government has been on how to ensure our companies are sustainable, and we are hoping that in the next few months we will get other projects, this time from the private sector. Martha Sibeko from Pretoria says, when I started my cleaning company 4 years ago, I did not understand how to source government work. One day, a government official from DED told me about the weekly tender workshops that take place at 75 Fox Street. I attended several times for 2 months. Now I understand how the process works, and the attendance is free. So government is working to support particularly us as small businesses from the townships. In an effort to ensure that our procurement opportunities do not undermine the cash flow stability of township and other enterprises, Gauteng has made significant strides in paying our suppliers on time. One of the successful programs that helped us achieve this has been our E-Invoicing application, which won a bronze award at the Premier Service Excellence Awards last week. Johan Kruger from Mayville commented online that payment of our invoices has improved since we decided to register for e-invoicing. I think that this is the way to go for Gauteng service providers, so that we can track our invoices and see whether officials are making sure they are paid. If we as small businesses get paid on time, we will grow and create jobs for more people. In compliance with the Public Finance Management Act, and as a direct response to supporting small enterprises, most of our departments now pay 92% of their invoices within 15 days. The Department of Health now pays 68% of its invoices within 30 days, and it makes an effort to ensure that small enterprises are prioritized. Honourable members, this year, we are taking our township economic revitalization strategy one step further with the creation of the Provincial Small and Micro Enterprise Clearinghouse. This partnership between the Gauteng government and the private sector and the University of Johannesburg links township entrepreneurs to those who want to buy their goods and services and those who want to fund and support such partnerships. It is designed not only to develop SMMEs in their own right, but also to link the support of the Youth Employment Service, the YES program, so that township enterprises can host interns from the Tsepo 1 Million partnership. The program will be piloted in Tembisa, Honourable Lusufi, for the first 6 months of this year, and then it will be upscaled in the second half of the year to other areas. Honourable members, I now turn to the budget itself. This Gauteng People's Budget serves as a bridge between the 5th and the 6th administrations. It concludes government programs and projects of this term, whilst being mindful of new priorities that will be addressed by a future administration. This year, we are appropriating 132.4 billion rand, which grows to 150.3 billion in the outer year of the medium-term expenditure framework. This represents a 9% annualized growth rate over the medium term. National transfers in the form of the provincial equitable share and conditional grants amount to 102 billion and 23 billion rand, respectively. Provincial own revenue amounts to 6.3 billion and represents 5% of our budget. The Department of Economic Development continues to lead our drive for economic transformation and recovery. The budget for the department for 2019-20 is 1.6 billion. The department has earmarked funds towards the following programs: 26 million for the upgrading of township hubs and industrial parks, 18.2 million to implement the Akasi Lab program, which now includes the incubation of 80 township IT entrepreneurs, 5 million for the pitching booster that provides financial and non-financial support to township enterprises, 75 million for the Conhill Visitors Centre, 40 million for the Biopark Phase 3 infrastructure project at the Innovation Hub, and 40 million for the superstructure block at the OR Tambo Industrial Development Zone. Honourable members, the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development remains an important contributor to our programme of economic transformation. The department's budget grows from 990 million this year to over 1.1 billion in the outer year of the medium term. Key programs receiving funding are 54.6 million for agro-processing, agri-parks, and mainstream urban agriculture, 91.3 million for farmer support and development programs, including fences, boreholes, piggeries, broilers, layers, fertilizers, pesticides, implements, and seed, 32.4 million for the rollout of the Community Vets program to provide veterinary support to small and emerging producers, and 31.9 million for community, backyard, and school food gardens. The Department of E-Government receives 1.4 billion this year. Key programs include the Gauteng Broadband Network and the platform for common e-services that are required for a connected city-region government. Honourable members, we are all aware that in recent times, progress on the broadband network has been constrained by fiscal challenges. Today, I'm happy to share with this House that the Executive Council has in principle approved a co-ownership and revenue sharing model. Currently, the provincial government, SETA, Centec, and Broadband Infraco are developing a collaboration model that could see GBN integrated into the national broadband network. Our aim, through collaboration and co-ownership, is to ensure outstanding provincial government facilities are connected and citizens benefit from ease of access to available e-services. Our allocation to the Department of Education, Gauteng's best performing department, in this financial year increases from 45.7 billion to 49.8 billion. Key allocations include 3.7 billion for direct transfers to public ordinary schools, early childhood development sites, 2.9 billion for the special school sector, which caters for learners with intellectual disabilities, 1.3 billion to provide 1.5 million learners with a hot meal at school every day, 1 billion to transport learners who live more than 5 kilometers from the nearest school, and to provide specialized scholar transport to learners who have special learning needs. 815 million is allocated for e-learning devices and e-learner teacher support material, which will continue to transform township schools into functional ICT-enabled learning spaces. 1.6 million is for textbooks, stationery, school furniture, and other learner support materials. 56 million is to improve the teaching of maths and science, and 531 million to improve the grade 12 results and to increase the bachelor pass rates. 1.4 billion to employ more teachers to assist with the ongoing growth of learner numbers. MEC Lusufi. To support young people make the difficult transition from school to the world of work, we will contribute over 500 million rand for youth development, which is made up as follows: 124 million for Tsepo 1 million, 23.8 million to the expanded public works program to create 7,000 work opportunities, 81.2 million for the National Youth Service program, which includes Zivoseni, 361 million to provide 6,500 bursaries, learnerships, scholarships, and internships at universities and TVET colleges, 165 million for government internships, 15 million for the Accelerated Youth Placement Program hosted by the Department of Economic Development, and 45.6 million for the Welfare to Work program, which will help a further 46,000 women, inclusive of single mothers, move from dependence on childcare grants to sustainable self-supporting economic activity. In the 2019 medium-term expenditure framework, we are setting aside 33.7 billion for infrastructure. This significant allocation is currently committed to infrastructure programs in development corridors over the next 3 years as follows: 2.9 billion in the Southern Corridor, 4.9 billion for the Western Corridor, 3.4 billion for the Eastern Corridor, 7 billion for the Central Corridor, and 4.1 billion for the Northern Corridor. The Department of Human Settlements will this year receive just over half the annual provincial infrastructure budget, an amount of 5.3 billion. This allocation will be used to deliver 10,000 service stands, 21,000 housing units, and 8,000 registered title deeds. The Department of Roads and Transport will receive 1.7 billion in infrastructure money this year. This includes funding the following key projects: Phase 3 of the R114, the construction of Road K101 from Midrand to the N1 Brakfontein interchange, and the upgrading of Beyersnordea into a double carriageway between the R114 and the Peter Road intersection. The K54 from Mamelodi, Tsamaya Road, to the R104 Bronkhorstspruit, and upgrading the R558 to Beckersdal, and the rehabilitation of Road P175 from Vanderbijl to Potchefstroom Phase 2. We will also continue with the implementation of the following road projects in Mfuleni: Vaal River City, the construction of a new interchange and access roads on the R42 from Barrage Road in Vereniging, the rehabilitation of the P156 from P155 to D2568, designs for repairs and maintenance of bridges in the Vereniging region, and re-gravelling of several roads in the Vereniging region. When we took office in 2014 under the Honourable Premier, we promised the people of Gauteng that good governance will be at the centre of all we do. We promised that corruption will not be tolerated. In an effort to tackle and fight corruption, the Office of the Premier has established the Integrity Management Unit. To achieve this, the Office of the Premier, working in collaboration with all Gauteng departments and the Special Investigation Unit, has developed a 4-pillar strategy which includes prevention, detection, building investigative capacity, and ensuring we take disciplinary action and lay criminal and civil charges where necessary. In total, we have allocated 291 million to promoting clean and effective government as follows: 23 million to the Office of the Premier for integrity management and legal services, 151 million for Gauteng audit services and risk management, 47 million for the Gauteng forensic services, and 47 million for the Premier's hotline, where whistleblowers can report concerns that they have. In the State of the Province address, Premier Makura welcomed the new Gauteng Police Commissioner, Lieutenant General Elias Mawela, emphasizing his distinguished career as a skillful and dedicated crime buster. He also welcomed the deployment of high-ranking police officers and shifting of resources to cluster and police stations that have a high crime rate. To support the police services, we have made the following allocations to community safety: 50 million this year to improve community policing forums, community safety forums, and street committees. 69.3 million is allocated over 3 years to fight crimes against women and children. I also want to take this opportunity to congratulate the Department of Community Safety for its efforts that resulted in a 15% decrease in road fatalities over the festive season. We have allocated, Honourable Nkosi Malabani, a further 129 million to enhance road safety through targeted law enforcement operations. Honourable members, as a government, we remain on the side of the most vulnerable in our society. 81% of the budget we table today funds government provisions of health, education, and social services. This year, we have allocated 5.5 billion to the Department of Social Development to be used as follows: 326 million for services for Gauteng's aged, which include resourcing 26 community-based care facilities that provide support to 24,000 older persons. 2.1 billion for services for children, of which 473 million is to fund new early childhood development centres with toys, libraries, and other play equipment, including ablution facilities and standardized meals for children in the poorest wards. This program will benefit 330,000 children. 154 million is allocated for services to people with disabilities, which includes implementation of independent living programs and increasing income earning opportunities in protective workshop services. 92 million to provide people in the poorest households with food parcels this year, and to support learners from families living in poverty, 145 million is allocated for dignity packs and 161 million for school uniforms. 395 million is allocated for the fight against substance abuse and 23 million to the Isibindi program, which combats violence against women and girl children. To increase the number of social workers available in communities, 86 million is added to the budget this year that will also help us to employ 153 new social workers and 15 million for the placement of 350 social work interns. Honourable members, the Department of Health, their budget increases from 46.8 billion to 50.8 billion, making it the largest provincial allocation. Key allocations are 30 billion to fund personnel, which includes 346 million for the employment of interns and 310 million for the absorption of community health workers. 17 billion to fund goods and services, and this includes the carry-through costs of 1.6 billion per annum commitment we made last year, so that the department can pay off its historical accruals. 148 million for the Cuban Doctor Program, and 150 million is allocated over the medium term for the department to obtain suitable office accommodation following the fire incident at the Bank of Lisbon. 300 million is made available through the Office of the Premier to compensate the families of mental health care users who have been approved by the Master of the High Court as a result of the Life Esedimeni tragedy. The Department of Sports, Arts and Culture and Recreation leads our campaign to promote nation building and social cohesion. This year, the department is allocated 1.1 billion as follows: 54 million to continue construction on 7 community libraries, 17.9 million for the Premier's Social Cohesion and Holiday Games, 35 million for competitive sport, and 35 million for the celebration of our national days. In the coming financial year, both the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs and Treasury will continue to provide the necessary support to municipalities. We are today making the following additional resources to support and intervene in our municipalities. An additional 65 million is allocated to support service delivery in distressed municipalities. We are setting aside 22 million over the medium term to support municipalities in developing the necessary capacity in integrity and ethics management. 25 million over the medium term is allocated to provide municipalities with additional capacity to attend to revenue plans, improve billing data, quality, and implement cost-reflective tariff models. We are setting aside 3.4 billion over the 2019 medium-term expenditure framework for the payment of rates and taxes on behalf of all Gauteng departments to municipalities. As I move towards the end of this address, I would like to thank Gauteng citizens for giving me the opportunity to serve through my election to this House in different capacities for the past 25 years. To Premier Makura, I express my gratitude for your steadfast leadership and enduring example of humble service and commitment to improving the lives of Gauteng's people. I thank my fellow MECs and all the MMCs of Finance for all your cooperation and collegial support over the last 5 years. Appreciation also goes to you, Honourable Speaker, the Chief Whip, Honourable Khumalo, and all honourable members of this House for holding us to your high standards of public accountability. Allow me to say a special word of thanks to Ms. Nomfundo Chabalala and Team Treasury for their diligent management of our provincial finances. I am sure you all agree, honourable members, that we are indeed blessed to have such dedicated and effective public servants. And lastly, allow me a personal word of thanks to my family, Gita, Kwanda, and Sean, who spent their babyhood in this legislature and who now hold me to account in that robust and fearless way of Gauteng's energetic youth. Honourable members, I want to conclude today with a quote from the Barack Obama Nelson Mandela Lecture 2018, delivered here in Johannesburg on the 18th of July last year. I have chosen this quote because it speaks to this moment in our history, a moment when we need all of us to stand up and support President Ramaphosa's vision of growth and renewal for our country. A vision that advances the values of our Constitution and once again places at the center of our agenda the needs of the poor, the unemployed, the marginalized, and the dispossessed. It is a vision we will only achieve if each and every one of us, in our different ways and locations, works to make it a reality. Former President Barack Obama said, and I quote, "What we need right now, we don't just need one leader. We don't just need one inspiration. What we badly need right now is that collective spirit." And you know that those young people, those hope carriers, are gathering around the world. Because history shows that whenever progress is threatened and the things we care about most are in question, we should heed the words of Robert Kennedy spoken here in South Africa. He said, "Our answer is in the world's hope. It is to rely on youth. It is to rely on the spirit of the young." So young people who are in the audience, who are listening, my message to you is simple. Keep believing, keep marching, keep building, keep raising your voices. Every generation has the opportunity to remake the world. I salute you all. I thank you.